Ladies and gentlemen, the measures taken by authorities in Bahrain in the last few weeks that have included the rearrest of Nabil Rajab, the revocation of the nationality of Ayatollah Isa Qasim, dissolving Al-Wifaq, the biggest political party in Bahrain, dissolving the biggest Shia cultural CSO, imposing restrictions on mobility rights for Shias intending to participate in the biggest Friday prayers held in Bahrain at Imam Sadiq Mosque, systematic interrogations with Shia clerics and banning some of them from the right to lead prayers and sermons, accusing the most prominent Shia religious figure of money laundering for practicing a Shia ritual, and other repressive measures are expected to escalate to harsher measures. And we could witness a gross increase in human rights violations unless the international community exerts effectual and effective pressure on Bahrain to immediately stop these measures and commit to an all-inclusive, meaningful dialogue process that leads to sustainable peace, sustainable stability, and respect of universal human rights in Bahrain. The prospects of stability and national dialogue are diminishing significantly due to the authorities' lack of tolerance for any kind of opposition. Human rights defenders, religious leaders, political societies, CSOs in general are facing a series of repressive administrative measures. Bahrain's CSOs, human rights community, and activists are in serious danger of being whipped out and silenced. The UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, the US Secretary of State John Kerry, the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs Federica Mogherini, Adama Ding, the UN Secretary General Special Advisor for the Prevention of Genocide, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights at the UN, and other international parties and bodies and organizations have all called to reverse the recent measures and return urgently to the path of dialogue and reconciliation. However, the government of Bahrain is continuing in its escalation policy, revoking the nationality of Ayatollah Isa Qasim, the most prominent religious leader in the Shia community in Bahrain, and accusing him of money laundering for practicing a Shia religious ritual, which was regarded by the majority of Shias in Bahrain and elsewhere as an insult. It is more than a necessity to drain the wells that finance terrorism and violence around the world. Monitoring funds that could potentially head to terrorists and violent-based organizations that commit vicious crimes is a must. In fact, Ayatollah Isa Qasim himself, together with other senior Shia clerics, including Sayyid Abdullah al-Ghuraifi, have called after the terrorist attack in June 2015 that took place in Kuwait to counter and stop the financial and moral support for terrorist and violent activities in the region. Transparency in all financial activities for governmental and non-governmental bodies is appreciated. However, regarding the religious act of khums as money laundering is widely seen as an unconstitutional insult to 65% of Bahrainis. Article 22 of the Constitution of Bahrain clearly affirms that the state guarantees freedom of worship and the freedom to perform religious rituals in accordance with the customs observed in the country. Shias that form up to 65% of the national religious demography in Bahrain have been practicing the religious duty of khums in the same manner for centuries and not for decades. Furthermore, revoking the nationality of the top Shia cleric is regarded by many as an insult to 65% of Bahrainis. And I completely agree with the High Representative of the EU for Foreign Affairs, Federica Mogherini, that the situation in Bahrain is not just a human rights issue, but is also a geopolitical issue. The measures taken against Ayatollah Qasim were not only considered as an insult to Shias in Bahrain, they were regarded as an insult to Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Sistani in the holy city of Najaf in Iraq. They were regarded as an insult to millions of Shias around the world. What message is the government of Bahrain sending to Shias in Bahrain and around the world? The message is definitely not positive and does not serve the purpose of diffusing sectarian tensions in the region and establishing peace and stability in our troubled region. On the other hand, Ayatollah Sheikh Isa Ahmed Qasim has clear religious positions and fatwas that prohibit the use of all forms of violence. Such positions have safeguarded Bahrain from violence and counter-violence in the last few years. Bahrain could have easily swept into sectarian violence after the demolition of 38 Shia mosques. However, the positions of Ayatollah Isa Ahmed Qasim in prohibiting all forms of violence acted as the barrier and ensured no retaliation takes place and non-violence is guaranteed. Punishing those who commit to peaceful means of opposition, punishing, arresting, stripping the nationality of those that commit to non-violence could, unfortunately, make violence more appealing. Banning al-Wafaq, imprisoning Nabil Rajab, cornering other peaceful activists and activities could unfortunately lead to the growth of frustration and extremism when all the doors of freedom of expression, assembly, freedom of religion or belief are closed down. The misery of Shia citizens in Bahrain has to come to a stop, and equal citizenship must be constitutionally guaranteed. People of all walks of life, regardless of religion, regardless of race, regardless of gender and ethnicity, must have equal rights, must be equal in human dignity, and citizens must be equal before the law in civil, political, and general public rights. Stability and prosperity in Bahrain cannot be purchased by the misery of Shia citizens, but through political, social, and economic inclusivity strategies. Through regarding non-Muslims, Sunnis, and Shias as equal citizens. All Bahrainis, regardless of sect, are equal. Sunnis or Shias or non-Muslims should never be considered second or third or fourth or 10th class citizens by the government of Bahrain. Whoever believes in democracy, human rights, and equality in Bahrain has a principled responsibility to counter discrimination against all groups, challenging all forms of discriminations against disadvantaged groups is for the good of all in Bahrain. The continuation of the escalation policy against Shia citizens could never do good to Bahrain or to stability in the region. The social and political channels to meaningful dialogue have unfortunately been blocked for years by authorities. Refusing dialogue and reconciliation is too costly for all in Bahrain. It is time for authorities to acknowledge this reality and to immediately stop the current repressive measures. Finally, I would like to end my statement with the words that the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Zayed Hussein, has said in his opening statements at the 32nd session of the UN Human Rights Council in reference to Bahrain. He clearly said, repression will not eliminate people's grievances. It will increase them. Thank you.